My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, a podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jope, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Welcome back. Today is my birthday, like not literally, but like today is one of those days where I am the happiest. My heart is for families. My heart is for marriages. My heart is for relationships. And I truly believe that when you get the relationship part right, your life just gets less complicated. When you choose wrong, everything can go south. You choose the wrong person, you're parenting with the wrong person, you have to go through, like, I think that one of the biggest choices we can make is who we choose in our life. And I am super excited because today I have people who've been to hell and back with relationships. I don't want to preempt my speakers, but I feel like I have people who've been through the school of hard knocks, seen it, had it, fought through it, died through it, resurrected through it, and said, you know what? Let's fix this thing. And somehow have got themselves to a place where they are helping other couples go through marriage, like it doesn't have to be simple or easy, but you don't have to kill your spouse, because at one point you married them, which means you loved them, which means you want them in your life. But sometimes you can feel like shooting your spouse. Like I have felt the same. And I know that maybe people have, you wake up and you're like, if I had a gun, I would shoot you right now. But to be that hard, we will find out. Dr. Jeni, Mr. and Mrs. I don't know how to say. There's Calvin and there's Dr. Jeni. I want to believe Calvin is the gentleman and Dr. Jeni is the lady. Am I right?
Yes.
Welcome to the world's best kept secret. It's my honor to be interviewing you today.
Thank you so much. We are also honored to be here.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be that hard as wanting to wake up and shoot your partner. And and like the truth is that even if that's as intensely unhappy as you are right now, it's 100% possible to turn things around and create a relationship better than you've ever expected. And that's what we're all about, because that's what we did. And no one else showed us how to do that, nor did we believe it was possible. And somehow we figured it out. So we want you to know that it's possible too. And our hope is to help illuminate the way and inspire you to take steps on that path, because your relationship is like such an important piece of your life, and it affects all other aspects of your life.
We just want to be relationship Sherpas. We found our way up this mountain, the easiest path that we've been able to find through this. And so we just want to help to extend that opportunity to other people. Learn what we've learned.
I can't begin to tell you, like, I love my husband 100%. He's the right guy, but there is that 1% where I could see myself shooting him one day. But there's 99% where I wake up every day and I wonder how I got so lucky to be with such an amazing human being. But then when I look at the 1% me and the 99% me, I'm like, surely there's a way to get this 1% dissolve into the 99 good things. And so I'm excited. I know that I said you talk about all things relationships, but is there a particular problem that you are very centered on when it comes to relationships? Because relationships have endless problems. So is there a specific space in relationships that you want to like focus, like we just want to focus on this part?
Yeah. So in short, the problem that we focus on is unhappiness. We know the pain of being dissatisfied with parts of your relationship. We know that disconnection can just keep growing into this gaping rift between you, like an unbridgeable gap.
Yep. You move from the 1% and slowly over time, it can grow
to be the majority.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And it can happen really quickly. And the momentum is kind of sneaky. But you know, the frustration and the exhaustion that you feel when the same issues keep coming up again and again, you know, our work is to help support ambitious couples out there who know that you want to be together, that you're not willing to settle for just good enough. That, you know,
something
it
in
could
you
just be better.
Yeah, something, it's like you might be at a place where you're not sure if you want to be in the relationship. We could go from that level of unhappiness, or it may just be that like there's this part of your relationship that isn't working for you. You know it could be better. You can't figure your way out of it, and you're determined to like go after the dream of your relationship being everything that you want it to be, being that like really happy, really incredible, waking up feeling in love and so grateful to be next to the person that you're with. That's the experience that we want everybody to have as much as possible, right? So if that's not the experience you're having and it's something you're wanting for your life, that's where our work comes in.
Yeah, our work is about moving beyond those challenges and really stepping in to creating a relationship with ease.
Yes.
Like that is such a wonderful word, like easy.
And so rarely associated with relationships.
Right. We always talk about relationships being hard. But also with that ease, happiness and that like deep, unwavering, fulfilling love so that you can feel like you're living the fullest expression of yourself, and that you're leaving this really great legacy of relationship health, right? In the world and within your own family.
I love it. I have a few questions before I go into your story, which I love so much. I feel like your story has been like this, a wave up, down, up, down, spike. But before we get into the beautiful story, I do have a few questions. One is, I want to ask you a question if I'm your ideal client. I love my husband. Our relationship is great, but I don't want great. I want extraordinary. I want a relationship which is like bulletproof. I want to be sure for real, that we're here and we're going to go through this. I don't want the uncertainty of, well, I hope things don't change, or I hope it doesn't get worse. I want to be sure that we can go through the storm together. I don't want to reach that point where I am unhappy. I want to be in a point where like, yeah, you know, my business, I have coaches, I have this, and in my relationship, I'm really going in the right direction. Like things are going from like ordinary to extraordinary. I'm not coming from a place of I'm unhappy. I'm just coming from a place of how can we make sure this just goes upward from here? That's kind of where I am right now. We've been married for a year. You could debate that we haven't, you know, dipped our toes enough. We don't have children yet. And so you could probably debate that we're still in honeymoon. But I do know that I need to be intentional if I want to keep or even make it better. So do I fit to be an ideal client of yours, or do I have to be in a certain space of I'm unhappy to be fit to be a client?
That's a really great question. I'm so glad that you asked that. You are absolutely an ideal client. In fact, our business has made a bit of a pivot lately where we want to focus more on taking your relationship to the next level, making it extraordinary and unshakable, bulletproof, as you said, right? Because that's what we know can happen, and it's so joyful to be in that space of looking at like, how do you dissolve that 1% that shows up someday? How do you really ensure that your relationship is this source of support and energy and solidity, so that you have the ability to like focus on your dreams, your business, abundance, like co-creation. That is our favorite place to work. And so yeah, I'm so glad you clarified that, because yes, we can support folks when they are in a place of unhappiness,
And like,
which is where a lot of people start when they are looking for support.
there's a lot of motivation in pain.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. And it's, and, you know, and I would love for those, you know, those of you listening to, if you're in a space where you're like, well, my relationship is pretty good, I've got a great relationship, know that doesn't mean that your relationship can't get better, that can't keep going up and moving to the next level and the next level. And that there's so much in that for you and your life when you take the time to invest in and continue to maintain and nurture what is essentially the most important resource of your life.
I love what you're saying. I wanted to say that for me, it's more of an awareness. I have done some amazing things, and I couldn't tell you the formula for getting there. And I couldn't repeat it. And so I feel like relationships are like that. I've been lucky. I somehow landed on a formula. I chose the right person. It's been great. But if I was to map back that formula, I don't have it. And so if I don't know how I did it, for me, chances are I may not repeat it. And if I am learning a lot of things about intuition and guts in interviewing people, that I'm now beginning to kind of get my behavior, which led me to something great, and going, oh, so this is why it happened. So if I can repeat this thing, it may happen again, as opposed to it happened, so we keep rolling, and now I can't get the result, and I have no idea how to get it. But also from what I see, usually I like to see audiences as 3 categories. So how I see maybe the primary person is the person who is motivated by pain. I don't like where I am right now. And maybe the second person is me who just wants the next level. And maybe the third person is the person that is not even aware. That's how I look at audiences. Like, there's a person who is unhappy right now, biggest motivator, let's start there. But there is me who is just conscious, and maybe I have an awareness that I want more, you know, in life. And relationships is an area where I want to be sure that I'm preparing myself to cultivate that. And then the third person who is watching us going, relationship can get easy. Like, really? That hasn't been my story. Let me listen and see. And so I wanted to put that in there because I want for the listener to kind of go, yeah, I am in the right room. The other question I had was, do you help? What if I'm unhappy, but my spouse is not willing to do the work? Do you help one person, or what's your belief around one person wanting to do the work versus the other way around, which is like, oh, we both want to be in this? And I know you help committed relationships, which is you want to be together, you all want this, you want the same thing. But what if I want it more than the other person and we're not willing to do the same work? How does that work?
Well, it's funny because that's how our relationship shifted. And that's where we started. That's where we started as a business, is just like focusing on the one person, because one person can change the relationship. We strongly believe that. But we also believe it can change much faster, much I don't know, easier, like less stepping on each other's toes. We call it a dance, right? But anyways, it goes faster when 2 people are involved.
2 people learning the dance at the same time. Is going to help, you know, you change the steps of the dance
One
a
person.
lot faster than if one person learns some new dance moves and just comes back in and is the leader of the dance, right? You could still change the relationship that way. You could you're inviting your partner in to do dance moves. They might protest and be like, why are you changing things up?
And
What is
do the
going
whole
on?
dance and you're stomping on each other's toes.
Yeah, and that's part of what happens anyways, in part, in as you try to change patterns in your relationship and create new ways of being with one another. But like you could still do that. And really that idea is foundational in our work, that each person not only has the power to change how things are going in their relationship, but also has the responsibility. And so if you're one person who wants your relationship to be better, wants to do the work, and your partner doesn't want to work on it with you or in the same way, that doesn't mean that your choices are either stay in the relationship unhappy or as things are without taking it to that next level, or leave the relationship. You also have the choice to engage in the work that you're feeling called to do, to do your part to help level up your relationship. And the truth is that it will work. Your partner, as long as they keep dancing with you, so to speak, they will change, they will improve with you, because
they have to be influenced.
You're at least half of that equation, right? You're 50% of the equation, plus whatever influence you have on how your partner responds.
And they're 50%.
So to answer your question more directly, yeah, we primarily work with couples who both want to be in it.
Yeah, that's our ideal.
And we will also work with individual partners who know that they want to do the work.
Yeah, we have them.
Okay, amazing. I would love to jump into your story. Tell us your story, the ups and downs and everything in between.
It's a good one. It is hell
yeah,
back.
because we didn't start here.
No,
not even close.
Gosh, and if you would have told us when we were in it that we would someday be in a business together, and the focus of that business was helping other couples have extraordinary relationships, we would have laughed.
I would not have believed you.
There's just no way, right?
No, hysterical.
Let's get to the weeds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So when Cal and I met, like, we had this really powerful connection right away. But our relationship was not easy.
No.
We were incredibly different. It felt like we were going in different directions in our life. We both had our own like relationship stuff that was
baggage,
that was coming up for each of us. I knew I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life, like immediately. He absolutely didn't trust that and thought there was no way it was ever going to work.
Yep.
And so we were like in this constant struggle with one another.
Not only that, we were just very different, which causes a lot of struggle too.
Yeah,
and we didn't know how to navigate our differences very well.
Yes, and that was part of why it felt like, especially for you, that we were incompatible with one another. We're just so different. And so, like you, I'm sure we tried to use communication. We tried to talk to one another, me especially, because I'm the one who wants to fix things. He would rather not have to talk if we didn't have to.
Yeah.
Because it was hard and painful. But when we tried to communicate, it actually would make things worse more often than not.
Create blow-ups and then days not talking.
Yeah.
Neither of us were feeling happy or seen.
Or cared about.
Seen, heard, or cared about by the other one.
There was a lot of pain. And so what would happen is that our solution, because we couldn't figure this out, our solution was usually to break up. And in our first year, we probably broke up and got back together, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, right?
But broke up for good and spent 7 years apart from each other.
Yeah. And
married other people
in that time, right?
Yeah.
And obviously those relationships didn't work out either, because they were better because we were a little more compatible, I think, with those folks. But also we hadn't really figured it out yet, how to do this whole relationship thing. And interestingly, in that 7-year gap, I actually got my PhD in couple and family therapy, and had started a private practice where I was supporting other couples in their relationship. Relationships have always been like my passion, my interest, my purpose. And so I can't tell you how, oh my gosh, frustrating and confusing it was for me to feel like I understood relationships and their problems and their solutions. And I was actually just doing a good job as a counselor to couples, helping them. At least that's what they told me, and they were improving. But I could not figure out how to make this relationship better. Just like something was missing. And it was infuriating. Anyways, so did you want to jump in?
Well, no, I was just gonna go to the next part.
Oh yeah, of our story. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So like eventually we got to a place where I felt like I had been giving my all. Everything that I could. I let her know that like I'm trying. I'm giving you all that I have to give. I just didn't have a lot to give at the time. I was really just living in survival mode, and I was going through a whole lot of life changes and hardships and losses, all compressed in like this short amount of time. And so even though I knew that she wanted and needed and deserved more from me, that like I had breadcrumbs to give her.
Yeah, that's how we like to talk about it. I was living off of breadcrumbs in our relationship. And if you can imagine that, you know, it's really hard and painful to have so little time and attention and love and care and availability, like an emotional space. Especially after having like been apart for 7 years, and for my part, knowing in the beginning that I really wanted this, and now I finally had this, but I didn't have this. I only had breadcrumbs of this relationship, and so it felt like I was starving, and it was really painful and challenging. But as challenging as it was, like there was actually such a great gift for me and us in Cal's like taking this stand in, this is where I'm at. I'm not able to do anymore or give anymore, participate anymore in working on a relationship because I got to worry about surviving. What it did was it forced me to choose consciously whether to sign up for this relationship, knowing that I was getting breadcrumbs right now, or to leave. And I chose to stay because I knew that I wanted to be in this relationship.
So hold on.
Yeah, sure.
So you're married, you're in and out. At one point, you're like, you know what? Let's just break up for good. You break up for good. You marry other people. Wherever you go, there you are. You're still there in those relationships. They don't work out. You just know what you had together was far maybe more, well, there was something about it that you wanted back. So now you're trying to get back. So at the point where you're trying to get back, is Calvin able to give more than breadcrumbs, or is he still at the place where he has no capacity?
Oh no, he's got just breadcrumbs. That's it.
Yeah.
The same really breadcrumbs you couldn't tolerate 7 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. Worse.
So take us there. So what made you choose a different direction? Because you had the breadcrumbs. You decided you didn't want them. He goes away, but you probably got worse breadcrumbs, who knows? And then he got maybe another person and realized he still had breadcrumbs. So he probably did realize maybe I'm the problem. You realize maybe you're the problem. So now get to that point of wanting to get back together and what that turning point was, because I feel like you still have breadcrumbs. So I'm struggling to kind of see how this decision was different.
Yes. So, well, I'll say when we were first together, that first year, we weren't married, we were dating. And so at least we didn't have the divorce thing happening. And when we got together, actually the second time, 7 years later, It was after we had both come out as polyamorous. So we started our relationship also in our marriages. So we were a second relationship. So there was a part of that allowed, for me anyways, because I still had my wife at the time, to tolerate the breadcrumbs a little bit more. And because I had this other relationship that it wasn't quite breadcrumb. It wasn't everything that I wanted it to be, but it was pretty good. But I knew in my heart of hearts that like Cal was my soulmate. He was my person. And so the decision was different, I think, for me, because I knew how it felt to not be in relationship with him. Right? Like I knew how it felt like there was this part of me that was missing. And just something in my like intuitive truth was this is the path I'm supposed to be on, even as hard and unsatisfying as it is now. And part of what helped me make that choice was knowing and trusting that Cal wanted to give me more, wanted to be better, just didn't know how and wasn't able to at that time. Right. And we talk about this a lot in our work with couples who are considering whether or not to even stay in their relationship, that if you've got a partner who's willing to do the work, who knows that they want to give more and who values becoming a better person and partner,
committed to personal growth,
that is like such a resource. There's so much potential in that seed. It just may need some time to grow, right? And the right circumstances, right? In order to really, really blossom. And I sensed that was here, and I believed in that with Cal. And
I believed in that in myself too. I remember us having that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, like I said, a real stress pileup. There's a lot of really hard things happening in a short period of time for me. And so, yeah, it was just like, I couldn't be better, but like the desire to be better was definitely there. Capacity just wasn't.
And so what, like what that kind of positioned me to have to do was figure out how I could like take responsibility for my own happiness in this relationship, because I couldn't get everything I wanted from him. And it wasn't all about just getting my happiness from my other partner. I want to be clear that folks who are not in other relationships, like Cal and I right now are only in relationship with one another. You still have responsibility for your own happiness and your own well-being in the relationship. And when I started shifting my focus to how I could help our relationship be better, rather than how I needed Cal to make our relationship better, right? It was this shift from like pointing my finger at him. This is what I need from you. This is what I need you to do. This is how I need you to help me feel happy and help me feel loved. And I started looking at me. How can I help me feel happy and loved? How can I help you feel happy and loved? How can I help you have more capacity and space and energy to invest in the relationship? That like one shift changed everything. And this was, I loved what you were saying earlier about how a lot of the times we're not conscious of how we got the change that we, like I got to this great point, but I have no idea what I did. And I think that happens sometimes in couples counseling too, right? The therapist is helping you change, but things get better, but you don't know exactly how or what you did to make things better. Like that was us. And it wasn't until we decided to get into relationship coaching and looked back on what we had done that we figured out the steps that we had taken to create this like massive transformation, right? And so just to backtrack a second, because I'm tangenting a bit, but it was amazing how quickly things started to change when I took the pressure off of Cal as the problem and thus the solution, and started like doing my part in the relationship, focusing on the leadership of my part of the dance, right? To come back to that metaphor. Because what it did was, like, as I started showing up better and with more love, Cal felt safer and less defensive and more inspired and motivated to show up better for me, and had a little bit more capacity to do that. And so he did, and that really fed me. Now, instead of getting crumbs, I was getting a piece of bread, right? And so then I had more energy and motivation to show up even more lovingly for him and for what he was going through, for which he felt like so like grateful and supported in. Then he wanted to give more to me, and now all of a sudden we had this upward spiral.
Yeah.
Right. And we, again, like, we went from this really painful, hellish place where we didn't know if we were going to make it, or if we wanted to make it, or if it was worth the effort, to this place in our relationship where now it is easy, it's enjoyable, it's unshakable, right? We know we're bulletproof. We know how to handle whatever comes up between us. And honestly, we are like 99% conflict free. Like, yes, still for us, sometimes that 1% shows up, and we know what to do with it, right? We know how to put it into perspective. We know how to move through it quickly. We know how to repair really well.
Right.
And it's changed every other part of our lives to be able to enjoy a relationship that really is so extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, it's become like a generator of just energy for us, where it used to be a drain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Dr. Jeni, I can't help noticing you have clearly stated she, they on yourself, and clearly indicated that Calvin is a he, him. I am very ignorant when it comes to these pronouns and what they mean. So could you help me understand how things work with this kind of pronouns coming up? And maybe Carl will also tell me his side of the story, because he doesn't seem to share the same beliefs as you do. Take us there, like, educate us, because this can be a source of, I don't know. I don't understand, because I kind of am thinking, how does this work? Help me there.
Yeah. So we identify as a queer couple. So we're part of the LGBTQ community. And we're intentional about sharing that and being very transparent in our identities, because we know that other folks in that community, in our community, need to know that there are people out there who share similar identities and are there to support them, right?
Well, yeah.
So,
but I think also the use of a gender identity at the end of our name really also helps it, so that we're not assuming gender of anybody just based on what they look like or based on their name, and recognizing that gender within people can be different and be fluid.
Yes.
And not be what was assigned at birth. Right.
So for example, I use she, they, because I identify as gender queer feminine as my gender identity, which means that, go ahead. Were you going to ask what that meant?
What does that mean? I don't understand the gender queer. I don't understand why she, her is not okay for you. I don't understand why they, because I see you as one person. So help me understand why. What is the gender queer, and what does it mean? Why is she, her not enough for you?
She, her can work for me. And I see myself as kind of more fluid and more expansive in gender. And so the language of she, her, of like woman, right? While I identify with those words, they don't capture the fullness of who I am, right? And so in our community, a lot of folks like myself use or add they them pronouns as not not in the plural, right? Not like as multiple people, but as like an unspecified non-binary pronoun, right? So if for example, in the English language, if you are talking about someone whose gender you don't know, we automatically say they, right? Like, I wish I could think of an example right now.
Yeah.
I'm getting an idea. So for Carl, he still holds his identity from birth, his sexual identity from birth.
Actually, no. I'm a trans man. And so I was born a woman.
Well, born female.
Born female with female parts. I wasn't born a woman. And recognized for myself at a very early age that I felt very different, misplaced in my own body. And so, yeah, for me, they is not as accurate. I guess it could be, but for me, it's always been I've always felt connected to my masculinity. So
yeah. And so like having those pronouns clarifies who he knows himself to be. And for me, who I know myself to be. And so he knows he's clearly a man. And I know that I am a woman and also something beyond a woman, that there's parts of me that are more masculine, but I don't identify as a man.
Ascribe to the binary.
Yeah, I don't, I don't think that gender has to be one or the other. And so our pronouns there identify that for myself, while also clarify for Cal that like, no, he's solid in who he is as a man.
It's funny because I saw him as just a man. I didn't see the woman part until
well, you're not supposed to
point.
because he is just a man.
I am a man. Yeah.
Okay. So if I didn't say she, I don't know what.
If you had never asked the question, you'd never know this information.
Yeah.
So now for me, what does the world think when they see me? Because I have no idea. I am a woman. I am a she, I'm Prima, I am me. I don't have another affiliation. So if I don't have the pronouns, what is the default when you see the name? You think, oh, we don't know.
Yeah. So if someone saw your name, well, someone from like our culture,
from the United States,
that is often so.
Yeah.
It's unaware of other culture namings.
Oh gosh.
If they just saw your name, Prima, they wouldn't know if you were a woman or a man.
They might make an assumption that you are a woman because your name ends in an A.
Yeah.
Simply that.
Yeah. Wow. Is more likely, but
yeah. But there's a chance. I don't want to
get deep into this topic. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do have one question. Does that mean that Dr. Jeni sees other people besides Calvin? Is that something that is okay for you guys? Or is it, I have this identity, but I am spending the rest of my time with you because I chose that?
Yeah, so when we mentioned that we were polyamorous, what that means is that we both identify as in our like relationship structure as people who are open to being in relationship with more than one person at a time. So and that goes for both of us. So if Cal met somebody else that he was interested in dating or having a relationship with, he would be able to, and then the same goes for me. Right now, though, we are not in relationship with anybody else. We are just choosing ourselves because we are in relationship with our business, which is like a whole other relationship that's taking our time and energy. And we co-parent 4 children in our blended family, and they're young. So those young people are also like being in other relationships.
Very important relationships.
And they take a lot of time and energy. So we are really focusing on those parts of our life and making sure that we have enough energy and capacity to nurture this one, because this is so essential to our well-being.
That's interesting. So what I'm picking is, okay, it's an open relationship, but you're choosing not to see other people. Does that mean that you don't like do wedding stuff? Do you believe in being wedded and like saying I do, or this is just you have a different world you live in?
Both.
Yeah.
Both, I think. We're not officially married because we've been through a divorce with our former partners.
Yeah, I just have something against also like the government sanctioning my relationship and therefore like tying each other in that way. I just think it's unnecessary. Doesn't the structure does not create commitment.
We are married in heart and soul.
Yeah.
Right. And I often refer to him as my husband and me as my wife, even though we don't have that legal paper that says that. So we absolutely believe in commitment, in marriage, in monogamy, in everybody getting to choose their authentic like life and path in who they are and how they build family, how they express love and do relationship, as long as there is consciousness and well-being and love and integrity at the heart of everything that we do. So for us, like there is a commitment of forever in this relationship. That I don't think would be made any stronger if we were legally married, right? This is like a soul's commitment. We know that we're in this relationship until the end of our time.
I guess the question I do have is, I actually don't have a problem planning the freedom part of the relationship. I guess the question I have is, if you're saying you're the forever partners, but you're saying you're open, I am a bit confused, because so when Carl decides they like another person, do you decide you like another person? Or what's the difference between those people and what you have? Is it like they will be on the side and they will be on the side, or is it equal people and you have to navigate that part when it comes?
Yeah, so in our relationship, we are likely going to navigate that when it comes. My guess, given the connection and life that we're building as parents, as people who live together and share like finances and responsibilities and a business, my assumption is that our other partners would not be centered the way our relationship would. Our relationship would be kind of privileged over other relationships. But that's not the only way that people do open relationships, and it's not necessarily, there's no right or wrong in how open relationships are structured. It's all about what works for the folks who are in it.
I have a friend who is a Muslim. In their culture, you can marry many wives. And I say to him, so how many wives are you planning to marry? And he said 1. I said, that's interesting. I said, why? And he's like, just because I can doesn't mean I have to. I think it's the same with you guys. Just because you have the door doesn't mean you have to walk through the door. And I think 100%. The strongest marriage or relationship is one where you have the choices and don't feel the need or the urge to take them. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is really interesting. But I do want to kind of jump into how you do what you do. You know,
Okay.
you bring all these relationships. I didn't even know I was opening that door. I didn't see the
Yeah, I
until
bet you did
somewhere
it.
in the conversation. And for Calvin, it's a totally different chapter. Like I didn't even think of the heartbeat or whatever.
Yeah, I
Not
believe
there,
you.
believe me. I don't
It's
see
usually
it too.
yeah, it's usually a surprise.
Yeah.
Unless you've already like done some digging on who we are.
It's not a
I
thing I
love
lead.
this conversation.
Yeah.
So take me through that process of, let's just go with I'm unhappy, really.
Sure.
With my relationship where it is, and I don't know, there's situation X and Y, communication, whatever the thing is, and I want to change that. Take me through that process of making people, like taking people from that place where they don't even know, like where Calvin was. I don't have more to give you. I've given you everything I have. And that's all I have. I want to give it to you. I wish I could, but I don't have the capacity to give you the things that you want. I love that relationship because I feel like that is the relationship that I want to, because if people don't want to be with us, if people don't want to change, if people don't want to grow, I am personally not inclined to changing them or trying to force them. I am personally in the mindset of, you do what you have to do for yourself and you decide if you want to stay or not, because you really can't do work for another human being. So I want to help the relationship that has the ability, because honestly, you're not tied to any one person. You can choose the person that you do life with. So I want you to help the couple, which is more of a Calvin. I want to get better. God knows I want to give you everything I have. But there's nothing inside this body to give you. I've given everything and then some more. If you try to take anything off me, I'm going to die. Take me to that couple and help them kind of move from A to some point.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying that supporting the Calvin partner in that relationship dynamic.
Yeah, the one who's depleted.
Would actually I don't want to say start with, but I mean kind of start with the other partner, the partner who has more resources and capacity. The partner who has more motivation,
more in their cup,
has more in their cup to give. Because like we shared in our story, like the Cal was able to grow and shift when I stopped like making it his responsibility to be better, to give more, right? When I stopped trying to take stuff from him and I started giving to him, right? And when I started doing that, then he had more to give back.
I want to stop you there.
Sure.
There is you not taking from him, but there is you not willing to settle for, nothing. So could you specifically tell me how you can help this partner without, you don't want to take from him, but again, you don't want to leave on breadcrumbs forever. And the beauty with him is that he actually is willing, which means that he can build capacity. And I'm thinking that you're coming from a place of, I see that you have the ability to grow, and I'm going to support you until you have capacity to give me the bread. So can you tell us specifically how that looks like? Because when you say, I am not going to take from him, we don't understand what you mean. You mean, should I just sit there and appreciate the person, even though I know that these breadcrumbs won't feed me for life? How do I get Carl to understand that I am willing to do everything I can in my power, as long as he's working on that capacity and building it? Because for me, it's a condition. You're either building that capacity or we have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that clarity has to be there, right? That conscious decision and intention of both people. Like I it's not about just sitting back and keeping your mouth shut and not saying anything and just settling with breadcrumbs, right? Part of it was being clear, like, this isn't enough for me. I do want and need more from you if I'm going to continue to be in this relationship. And hearing Cal say, yes, I know, I want to give you more, I just can't right now. And so it's a journey, right? It's and this is commitment for everybody. We think we commit once and then we're just in it forever, no matter what. It's like, no, like, actually everybody has a door, whether you're in an open relationship or not. That's why divorce is so prevalent. That's why affairs are so prevalent. Everybody has a door that they can always choose whether or not to walk through. And so when we make a commitment, it's always a bit conditional on, like, do I see you dancing with me? Are you totally sitting out the dance and I'm here trying to just get you to engage with me and you're unwilling to do anything in a relationship at all? That's not going to work. And you have to know yourself and love yourself enough to know that if your partner's like not willing, not engaging at all, that might not be the relationship for you, because you can't just keep giving and giving and giving and not receiving anything.
Yep, it's not sustainable.
But Dr. Jeni, I do have a question. You said to me,
yes.
I stopped taking from him.
Yes.
And I am trying to kind of find the 1 or 2 or 3 things that can be very tangible for me when it comes to I stopped taking from him, but also from Calvin. I want to understand how he moved from I have nothing left and now I know what to do to give you more, because I feel like he can be blank as well. I want to, but man, I feel like nothing I ever do is enough. He can also be in that place where he's willing, but the how is not there. And he just receives it as, man, there's nothing that is enough for her. But I want, like, it's a frustration for him. And I don't want to assume that the how just fell on his lap. Like, I kind of want to get those tangible little steps of how you were intentional in maybe pouring something in his cup, and how he was intentional in getting the how together, because it can be a place where a man is doing everything he can, and he just feels like nothing is ever enough, because it can feel like as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's absolutely how I think.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience. But did you want to talk about your part first?
Because... yeah, so I'll try to explain this a little bit in another metaphor, because I think that those stories are helpful for me just to share these kind of abstract ideas. In our relationship, say it felt like what I was giving to Cal was financial. Let's put it in financial terms, right? Say I was giving him like $1,000 a day, and he was giving me 10 cents. And like, and in our relationships, we want equality, we want equity, we want it to feel like it's fair and like I'm receiving as much as I'm giving. And so that was the imbalance, right? That was the breadcrumbs. Like, I'm giving you so much and you're giving me so little. Now, what I realized finally, and this was really important, I think, especially as a white person in relationship with a person of color, is that I was coming from a place of a lot of privilege. In metaphorically, I had millions of dollars in my bank, right? And Cal had $1 to his name. And so if you look at equity that way, I'm giving $1,000, but what is $1,000 a day to a millionaire who keeps getting money regenerated into her account, as opposed to giving like 10 cents from someone who is starving and only has $1 and has got no income coming in. When I realized that, it was like, how can I keep expecting him to give me $1,000 when he doesn't have $1,000? How can I tell him that his 10 cents isn't enough when proportionately he's giving me 10% of everything he has, and I'm giving him, I don't know the percentage, like 1 or 0.01 or
small,
like this little piece of what I have. And so what, like, not taking from him started with a change in my own story about what enough was, right? And yeah, I moved into appreciation and recognition for what it meant that he was giving what he was giving. I started to see him for who he really was, not who I wanted him to be. And so what I was able to give on a practical level was the reflection: you are enough. I appreciate you. I see what you're giving to me. Thank you. Right? So yeah, I appreciated what he was giving. And also, how can I support you? I showed up with more emotional space, more grace. I showed up practically in helping him with his kids, helping him like clean his house, open his mail, right? The things that he needed, making sure he was fed on days where he was, because he had two newborn twins and a toddler at the time. So there were a lot of practical pieces. And really what it was is just like I shifted into what is going to help him feel more energized and loved. And that's going to be different in every relationship, right? What is going to help my partner, my spouse, feel safe with me, feel loved by me, feel like I'm enough, feel heard and seen and valued as I am, because that's where people need to start. They need to be really fully accepted as they are, where they are. Nobody is really very open to changing when they're receiving the message that like, I'm not good enough because of who I am, right?
Yeah. And that was exactly the shift, right? And no longer, like, I'm already in a low, difficult place. And then to get the reflection that everything that I feel like I'm putting out there is not being received, not being appreciated, not being understood.
And
I'm
not
not
enough.
being seen. Yeah, not enough. And so like getting those messages when you're already low just keeps you low.
Okay.
But then I started to get the reflection from her that like, oh, I do see how, you know, and I am receiving the love pings that I'm sending, right? Like it's working. The exchange is happening.
I got your 10 cents. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I got the receipt, right?
10 cents, Richard. Thank you.
Okay.
And that it's appreciated, right? And like acknowledged.
Okay,
It just
okay. So
helps to create the energy for me. Yeah.
Calvin, I want you to specifically tell me the things that she did that said, I see you, I got your 10 cents, I'm here to support you, versus the things she did that said, you're not good enough, you're a failure, you don't support me.
Yeah.
La, 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 la. Like, I want you to kind of paint for us the picture of what she did that got you really hammered down versus what she did that got you saying there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because maybe you're the only person who can tell us.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the specifics. I mean, I think what really stood out to me in those times is the way that she showed up for me in like really hard times. Like she was a support. It felt like I wasn't carrying this heavy load all by myself, and I actually had a partner, not just in words, but in practice. Like when what was helpful for me to feel loved, especially at that time, was acts of service. You know, in terms of love language, I needed to feel like I was in a partnership and I wasn't doing this alone, because I had felt that way. I'd say that, you know, in terms of acknowledgement, she just had this brilliant way of taking my nuggets, my breadcrumbs, and expanding on them, like translating them. Maybe it was like an ingredient to the cake, like the essence that she put into, added her own ingredients to, so it became something beautiful. And it was like, she'd say, you know, I acknowledged, or it was she acknowledged that I had done something small, but like she had translated it into her own love language, like and shared her appreciation for what I had said and what I had done. I I don't remember the specifics of what it is that I had done, but I just remember we were laying in bed and like she had shared this appreciation, and it was just like so nice because it's a thing I had been always doing, you know, or a thing that like that hadn't previously been acknowledged but wasn't a new thing. And so yeah, it was her being able to turn what I did have to offer into something that felt real and sustainable for herself.
We talk about letting it count, right?
Yeah.
Like letting what your partner is doing count and mean something, even if it's not what you would prefer. You know, so much of the shifting is this internal work of meaning making. What does it mean that your partner did or didn't do this, said this or didn't say this? And I shifted that meaning making process. If Cal was prickly and had his spikes out, right? Instead of feeling really hurt by it and upset with him that he just snapped at me, right? And now I wanted him to apologize and repair because he just hurt me and was rude. Part of what I did was translated like he's stressed, he's anxious, and instead of making it like that he did something wrong or bad, I would like lean into the prickles and be like, how can I help? Like, what's going on? And express care and concern, curiosity about where he was at.
Yeah.
And that like then he softened and the prickles would retract.
That's a good example. I can like literally count examples, but yeah, that was good.
And it was for me that like to process the hurt and recognize like if it was a big enough hurt or injury, I would bring it up, but I would bring it up not in the moment when he wasn't able to receive it. I would like recognize it's not going to help. He's not going to feel good. And then like gently bring it up later. Like, hey, can I share something with you that didn't feel good, when he had a little bit more capacity and then he was open to receiving that. So like, you know, as a maybe a take home point, one thing that I would love for you who are listening to write down and keep with you this one particular question. And there's actually a couple that we'd love to share, but one of our favorite questions in this work, in making this shift, which by the way, we have a name for, we call it empowered accountability. And empowered accountability is essentially recognizing that you have the power and, dare we say, the responsibility to change your part of the relationship by doing the work to change you, right? And it was that shift, right, for me realizing that, and then eventually Cal realizing that, oh, if he wants me to keep doing this, he has to do his part, right? It can't be about what he needs me, how he needs me to be different. It has to be about how he needs to be different. I have to focus on how I can be different, right? So empowered accountability is the foundation of all of the work that we do in terms of the how we would bring someone in. We teach empowered accountability. We support the learning and practice of this framework. So to circle back, just one of the questions that I think is so foundational, so important, so helpful is, what response can I make that is more likely to get what I want from my partner, more likely to take me closer to the outcome that I want, right? So how can I respond in this moment in a way that increases the chances that I'm going to get a positive response from Cal, that things are going to change the way that I want them to? And if I respond with reaction, defensiveness, criticism, frustration, a lack of sensitivity or compassion for, where he's at, he's likely to get defensive himself or feel unappreciated or unseen or unloved, so on. That's not going to help. So how can I respond in this moment
Mm.
to help him feel loved? Because I know if he feels loved, he's going to be more likely to give me the love that I want. And but that also doesn't mean just sucking it up and never holding him accountable for what I need. It also then means, how can I ask for my needs in a way and at a time that increases the chances he's going to be able to hear them and respond to them positively. So there's a lot of like slowing down and bringing consciousness to like how we're perceiving the problems, how we're looking at the solutions, and what does it mean to do love in action. To, you know, because that's what love really is. It's not just a feeling, it's something that we do. It's a way we be with our partners.
Wow. I want to go back to the framework or the process, but before that, I want to ask Carl. Now she's doing these things and you feel less attacked.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happens in your head? Are you like, I want to do more of it? Or are you like, I want to even give her more? Like, how does it move from the breadcrumbs to now really giving her the bread? Is it that you're giving her the bread now? Or is it that she's got used to the breadcrumbs, that she's now happy with the breadcrumbs?
Yeah, right.
No.
I'd like to think that I'm giving the bread at this point, but it was like a slower progression, right? You know, because for me it was also like trusting that, you know, what she was saying was consistently true, like the repetition was helpful. But you know, for me, I'm the kind of person who is committed to being a better person. I know that I'm not perfect in relationship. I felt all kinds of regret for the ways that I wasn't able to show up and support her, and like the ways in which my emotional unavailability was painful for her. Like I genuinely do not want to hurt her, didn't want to. And so for me, it really was like cup filling to recognize and hear appreciation and gratitude and like feel seen and like not blamed. And it allowed me to, you know, with a more full cup, be able to give more, you know, more out of my $2 or $5, right? Like as my cup continued to grow, you know, I was giving 10% or more. So, yeah, it really just was a catalyst. And the more that I was able to love her better, the more she was able to love me better. And it just started to accelerate into a place where, you know, I was just really doing the work, like, and we were really just in this ease and flow that felt really like, how can I love you better? 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 And like that is a beautiful, and exciting place to be in a relationship.
Now it's like now we've co-created a bread factory.
Yeah, we're just turning this stuff out,
really
you know.
I do want to go in the framework that you use, but I have this one thing to tell. There was a lady called Alison Armstrong. I don't know if you know her. She's an old lady. She's really old at this point. And she teaches, I think, men how to understand women. And she has this principle called the worth it equation. And she says that men are always in their head working out the worth it equation. So if they do something once, the next time you want them to do it, they're going to ask themselves, is it worth it? So when a man does something and you come back, he looks at your face and he's making the conscious decision, is this worth doing again? So to Carl's answer, I think when she would appreciate the little things and see the $1, then it will be worth it for Carl to give the next dollar, and maybe they become $2 until it was worth it, and so everything becomes worth it. So I think that what really happened here is that Dr. Jeni had a way to amplify every little thing she loved in what Carl did, and so that made it worth it for him to do it over and over and over until the point was like, how can I do more? How can I do? Because this is so worth it. How can I do more? Like, am I getting it right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that maybe isn't just for men. I think in some ways we're all
everybody's wired this way
doing it. And part of the shift I want to, call you into if you're listening to this is like you have to decide that it's worth it even before it feels worth it. You have to know your why, right? Like why you're in it, why you want to give. I had to decide that he was worth it, that his breadcrumbs were worth it, even though they were just breadcrumbs. And that is, that's love is deciding that your partner is worth it, worth this investment
of energy, time,
effort,
emotion.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know that it's worth it, because your relationships do require like attention and investment.
Yeah. Sometimes a little discomfort. So
take me more into the next step of your framework. Take me there, the whole framework.
Yeah.
Let's get into it and kind of let people see like the steps, because I feel like I'm making you go and get one piece. Give us the whole thing.
Oh, that's all good. All right. So our framework, our methodology has 3 pillars. A process. Learning, mentorship, and integration. And all of it is anchored in kind of what we were talking about, that framework of empowered accountability, EA. I was going to say EA. No, I got to say the whole thing. Empowered accountability. So the responsibility to own your stuff. So for those of you who are listening, like, and if you remember just one thing from what we have to say, like you have the power, responsibility to change your relationship, right? So it's not about blaming or shaming your partner into changing,
or yourself.
And we're not saying that like the challenges that you're facing are your fault, but we're saying that no matter who holds the fault, you're always responsible for how you respond to it, right? So that's at the cornerstone, or like it's the uniting factor of the learning, mentorship,
integration.
and integration that we do in our program. So should we go into the tips?
Well, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So like Cal's saying, the empowered accountability is our foundation, right? And the idea of empowered accountability is this like turning the finger pointing toward you and not toward your partner, because that's where your power is. You can't force your partner to change, as you were saying earlier, Prima, right? Like you got to give them the space to choose that themselves. And we're recognizing that we have an influence on our partner. So our work, the framework is centered on like learning how to take leadership within yourself, and ideally both partners are involved,
right?
And you're taking leadership to change what's happening in your relationship toward a direction that you want it to go, toward either making it better or leveling it up. And so the empowered accountability framework has 5 steps. And just real quickly,
sure, yeah, we'll go through them.
And these are what we teach people when they're feeling in some way like dissatisfied with where things are. So the first step is to notice what's going on within you. The next step is to remember that you can do something to change that and have the responsibility of doing it. If there's something that you want to be different, like then you take the leadership to make it different. The third step is shifting. If you're in like a negative emotional space, you're not going to have access to the kind of conscious love that it takes to create an extraordinary relationship. So you've got to do the work of shifting and getting yourself into a more open and receptive place. And that's a big part of the work that we do, is helping people learn how to do that effectively.
Nervous system regulation.
The fourth step is to ask empowered questions, which is a really powerful way of tapping into your intelligence, your wisdom. And then the third step is actually, the fifth step is actually doing something different, stepping back into your relationship and consciously engaging from a place of love. So I know that's a really quick overview, but
Help
each
me
one
with
of those.
4. What was 4?
4 is asking empowering questions. And actually, we wanted to share a little bit more about this step in particular, because I think that it, like, if there's one takeaway that you get from listening to us talk about relationships, our hope is it's the idea of, like, you have the power to change things, right? If there's a second thing that you take away from this conversation, it's that when you ask empowering questions about your situation, you're going to get empowered answers.
And respond in an empowered way.
And access, that next step choice.
Rather than reacting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, why don't you take me to the questions and kind of give me some of that? Because I feel like, one, it really helps not to get involved when you're like in the heat of the moment, but even when you're collected, give me some of those questions which make your partner give you answers and not run to the place of defense again, because it's very easy for people to just self-defense, and maybe you even didn't mean to attack them, but there's questions that can feel like an attack, a blame, a shame. So could you help us with some of those empowering questions that people can ask, which
actually
the
empowering questions we were gonna go like review with y'all were actually questions you can really ask more of yourself.
These are self-reflection questions that are going to empower you to come back and then speak to your partner in ways that disarm their defensiveness.
Good, that's good.
So the internal checklist we call the ABCDs of empowered accountability. So to start with the A stands for assume. So we're saying to assume in this case. Usually, I don't know, in the US, we say there's a saying around assumption. What happens when you assume? But in this case, we're saying to assume positive intent of your partner. How can you assume positive intent of the situation that you don't prefer?
Yeah. So when you're turning it into a question, right? It's like, how can I assume a positive intent? If I assumed a positive intent here, what would that be? Because
how would it change what happened?
Yeah, how would I change it on my understanding of what happened? Because we believe that all behavior is an attempt to meet some need. It's either I read this quote once that, like, all behavior is either a request for love or an expression of it. Right. So if Cal's got his spikes out and said something snappy at me, how could I assume a positive intent about that? He was just kind of really disrespectful or rude or something. Assuming a positive intent is like, his intention is to, like, communicate that he's in need of love and compassion. Right. There's an intent there. Or his intention was to respond, but he's not in an energetic place right now to respond better than he did. He's doing his best in the moment. So this is how, like, assuming a positive intent can shift your whole internal experience of what's happening in your relationship, and then empower you to respond from that place.
And again, I don't know, I feel like we should put the disclaimer out there. We're not talking, like, none of this stuff that we're recommending is for use in abusive relationships. I can kind of see how that dynamic could be interpreted.
Right. You don't want to assume a positive intent if your partner, like, just punched you in the face or is emotionally abusive. Please. You maybe could still assume a positive intent, and you got to center back into love and respect and boundaries and what you deserve, because it always starts with loving ourselves. And not accepting harmful behavior.
We're
Draw the
building
line.
this from the ground that there's two people in love, they mean good, they want to
Yes,
do this.
yes.
Yeah.
Just
We
make
have
sure that we're
not
clear.
gone to the parts where really you have to choose the right person because it all
Right,
goes
yeah,
there.
okay.
Okay,
So
I
we've
just want to make sure.
assumed that you have someone who genuinely wants to be better for
Yeah.
you, wants to provide.
Yes.
We'll probably have a question at the end where like people, like I think it has to be the right person who has capacity to be better. For me, it goes back to that. Are you
Desire.
upset
Oh,
to be
100%.
Because if you're not, like, what's the point? You know, what's the point
Exactly.
in anything?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, capacity, definitely desire. Sometimes they might not have the capacity, but definitely desire.
The desire.
Okay, so we covered the A, assuming
Mm.
positive intent.
Mm.
How can you? The B
Mm.
stands for benefit of the doubt. How
Mm.
can you give your partner the benefit of the doubt in this situation?
Like trusting them. If they say, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, and part of you says, well, BS, you did mean to hurt my feelings. Why else would you say that? Like, if you're asking yourself, okay, how can I give them the benefit of the doubt? Or if I gave them the benefit of the doubt, how would that change things for me? That's like, how can I choose to believe that they really didn't mean, right? It's benefit of the doubt. It's like, there's a trust piece there.
Okay, so the C stands for contributing. So the question is, how am I contributing to what's happening? How am I contributing to how I'm experiencing what's happening? So again, looking at yourself and your stuff and what might not be working about it.
So if you take the example of like Cal being prickly and snapping at me, like I might, I mean, yeah, I do. It's fresh in my mind, not because you were, but because I have strong memories of those moments.
We were just digging it up.
Yeah. You know, like, how am I contributing might be looking at like, how did I just say a thing to Cal? Did I be like, hey, why did you blah, blah, blah? Or did I say something in a way that activated some defensiveness? Could I have shared my feelings or asked my questions in a better way? So that is an example of how I might have contributed to what's happening. And I might say, you know, hey, I'm sorry for the way that came out. I didn't mean it to come out so critically. How am I experiencing? That's the like, that's the piece of like, I'm interpreting Cal's prickliness as a problem and an indication that he doesn't care about me. Or I can shift into, no, like, that's a story I'm telling myself. I know he cares about me. He's probably just really overwhelmed right now.
Yeah, or from my perspective, right? How I have the blessed ability to, you know, if I'm in a bad mood, I can interpret, right, things that would otherwise be neutral or possibly positive in a negative way because of how I'm experiencing other contexts of life, right? So things can get twisted in your experience depending on how you're feeling.
Yeah. So getting curious about the stories you're telling yourself and also how you're showing up and what that effect that might have had on what's going on in your relationship is really actually liberating and powerful.
And the D?
So that's the D stands for decision. So asking yourself, what new empowered decision could I be making about this situation? Or what new empowered belief can I create? But recognizing that you have a choice in, you know, how you interpret this, how you respond from it, how you make a meaning about what just happened. Like, that's your choice. That's your decision.
And then the S, which is our last one, stands for solution. And the question is, how can I be part of the solution? And that goes back to that question I shared earlier, right? Which is essentially what response can I make here that is more likely to result in what I actually want to have happen? And that is of all the questions, perhaps the most important, if you only remember the S of the ABCDs, think about solution. How can I be a part of the solution? How can I help create the outcome that I want in my relationship?
I love the empowered accountability piece. I think you guys should totally come on for a part 2. I feel like there's another chapter for conflicts, and there's another chapter for so many things. I'm going to kind of recap where we are right now, what I've understood, and you can tell me where I'm off and what I missed, and we can kind of move into, I want people to hear like how you support people, the containers you have, the ways you help people. And I want the listeners to get involved because it's in your power to change your relationship and your experience of it. And the information is now here, you have it. Now, what I need to do is get you to move, because I feel like there's information here, but people are still not doing the thing. This podcast exists because we all know how to lose weight, but every day someone is not liking how they look. So why aren't we doing the things? There's a problem here. And sometimes you need to move to kind of help yourself out of your own head and do the thing that you know very well that you need to do. We began with the story of these 2 wonderful, amazing human beings who are in a very interesting relationship that for me, I was just learning and taking notes, which is, for me, it's not like common knowledge. So I had to ask, and maybe I asked even stupid questions. But I hope that if you are in my place, that you got informed of, their pronouns and how beautiful their marriage looks like, because there's an open door that is clearly open, and they're saying we love each other enough, we care about each other enough, that we don't want to walk through that door, which is really what is happening for us who are married. I don't think the court or the ring or anything stops anyone from doing anything. It's just that we want to think it's safety, or we want to think it's there, but really the door is open every day. And whether your partner go through it or another is a different story. And so I like that they are not the typical religious couple, even though I think there's nothing wrong with religion. I like that they are normal human beings who live in the everyday life that we all live in, whose marriage I think is not perfect because of everything they've said, but who found a way to walk through, who dates someone for a year, splits with a person, sees them marry some other random person, 7 years later decides they want to marry this person. And who does this? Oh, I know you can see other people tomorrow, but I'm here for like, this is all like, I don't know if you can ask for a more complicated situation than they have, but
it's pretty epic.
Yeah, you didn't hear all of it either.
No, trust me, I had enough. And now they're in a place where they can sit on the same chair and agree to disagree and build something beautiful. Like, I mean, like, these things are possible for us. So they had so much to share, but I did pick out the empowerment accountability, which is a very good way to kind of really see the work for what it is. And I like the 5 things that they talked about in their formula. 1, which is noticing, like, was it noticing your behavior in the relationship, or was it noticing when something is off?
Yeah. Noticing within you that something's off.
Yeah. Noticing when you feel unloved, or when you feel you're getting breadcrumbs, or when you feel like something is not okay. Notice your energy shifting and catch yourself there, because it all begins with what energy you're taking to the other person. 2, remember you have the ability to feel something and do something different with it. You don't have to have this automation of, I feel angry, and so I'm going to go and attack my partner. You can feel angry, and then you can go and kind of do something else with that anger. You can feel angry, and you can take a walk. You can feel angry, and you can breathe in and out. You don't have to feel angry and attack your partner. You can feel angry and still compose yourself before going to the other person. 2, remember you can change what comes out of your mouth or what you do with that emotion. 3, remember that the energy you take determines what you get back. So if you don't take the time to self-regulate, most likely you're going to take a very low frequency to the other person. And if the other person is in a worse state, God help you. Because
Yeah.
Basically.
if you're going from a place of you're spiking and maybe, I don't know, you're spiking and shortcutting. You're not like in this place where you've come down and you take that energy to the other person. I can guarantee you, you'll get worse. Which is why your partner will close the door or slam the door in your face or do something they don't mean to do because of the energy or the frequency at which you're coming at with them. 4, ask empowering questions, which was really very interesting. And 5, doing something when you go to your partner, do something different. Empower them to give you what you want. So ask yourself, what do I want and how do I get it? Which if you've done all these 4 things, you're going to be empowered to do that. We dug into the questions that you can ask yourself before engaging with your partner, which I like because I thought it was the questions how you can ask your partner. But then I feel like that's again not empowering because I can't determine what they do with my questions. But what I find so empowering is those questions you can ask yourself, which really empower you to go and help your partner, you know, not feel like they're giving you their last bit of their breath and you're throwing it in the toilet. So one was assume that they mean good, which really, for me, I think it goes back to you have to make that decision of who you choose and if they're worth it. Because all these things don't make sense if you're with the wrong person. Sure. All these things don't make sense if you're with a manipulator who is in for themselves. All these things don't make sense if there's a narcissist. All these things don't make sense if there's a self-absorbed person who does not want to grow. So are you with the right person? I think that is the first test that needs to happen. Sure. Are you with the right person? Are you trying to do this work with the right person? Is this person worth your life? Are they worth it? Because if you can't answer that question, then everything we are doing doesn't make sense. So once you've made that question, you've answered it, then you can find a place to assume that they mean good, because they do. And there is a way they show you that they mean good. They want to be better. Like there is that knowing that they mean good, but in the moment, maybe they snapped, maybe their emotions got ahead of them. But when you look at it, they mean good. They actually regret the moment. They actually feel really bad that you're frustrated. So the assumption that they mean good, no matter how it looks like, really helps. But I think it can be hard depending on what state you're in yourself. Can you see a screaming and, you know, someone slapping a door in your face as a good thing? That depends on where you're sat, like entirely, like where you are. All these things can be hard if we are not coming from a healthy place of 2 people wanting to grow with each other and be better. See, contribute. Like, how am I contributing to this experience? So if your partner comes and they're attacking you, you can either give them back or you can decide you're not going to contribute to the energy. You can say, I would love to take a walk right now because I don't feel like anything I say or do will be helpful in this conversation. They may not like it, but if you talk from a place, like for me, when my emotion is high, I don't engage because I don't have the ability to possibly help my partner. And so I prefer to walk away, but he prefers to talk in that time. So I think another conversation I'll have with them is more like, so how do you, get this too? Because for him, when he sees a problem, he wants to solve it.
That's
me.
See that we are not ready for that conversation. I want to kind of disconnect and come back when I can take it. And usually we are different in the relationship. The other person's like, we have to solve it right now. And I'm like, no, trust me, I have nothing to give. It can be so hard because the other person feels like you're avoiding the conversation. Yet you really know if you engage, there's nothing in you to possibly be helpful. So I think that would be another conversation I would love to probably do in a part 2. And D is, I think what is the new belief? I don't know. What is the D? I forgot.
Decision.
Yeah, deciding.
Okay. So is it like more, what can I decide to do from this moment, or?
Well, so the decision piece is is connected to our recognition that beliefs, what we believe, are decisions that were made. Like at some point in time, our mind decided that this is
a problem.
Capital T true.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we talk about making new decisions, and this is part of the framework that we teach when we work with couples, part of it is like learning how to change the automatic decisions that are happening in our mind and reprogram in new like beliefs that that are more true and grounded in love and consciousness as opposed to fear and self-protection, which is where a lot of our beliefs come from. A lot of our beliefs also come from, you know, our childhood. Most of our beliefs were formed before we're 7 years old. And so we haven't given like conscious thought to them, and they show up and operate in our relationship. So when in our work, the D makes more sense because we talk about like the decisions that we make that create our belief, and how making a due decision about what we want to believe or who we want to be or how we want to show up or what we want this to mean for us, like cascades into a ripple effect of kind of changing a whole lot of parts of our experience. Does that make sense?
Yes. Making that, not narrowing down to he really doesn't care, but
yes,
kind of saying, I recognize Carl doesn't really have the capacity. And so I am deciding to sacrifice my short-term gain to help him build capacity, something like that.
Sure. That may be, that may be one
that,
decision.
Right. Deciding like your decision that my breadcrumbs would be enough for now. Right?
For now. Yeah, for now.
It's a new, more empowered decision that like, okay, I'm going to accept it. I'm like going to recognize that it is something. It's enough for now. Is a new shift from a belief that like it wasn't, and it wasn't good enough, and it isn't enough, right? All beliefs are just decisions. That you can decide to change the meaning, the interpretation of anything.
That's really big, because I feel like even the hardest part is to get to a point where you genuinely see your partner and accept that they don't have more to give you, and giving them the grace to grow from that. Like, I think that can in itself be empowering when you understand that they want to do good by you, but they don't have the capacity to do that right now. I love that. I definitely have to bring you two back for another topic, but I would love to jump into how you support people. But before I do that, what did we miss out that is so key to this entire process that we need to talk about it?
What did we miss that's so key that we need to talk about it?
Relationships are important. They're so important, and I think we don't even give it the credit that it deserves. Like relationships are a thing we built our lives around, if you're talking romantic relationship, but even just in general, relationships, when they're not working, create so much suffering in our lives unnecessarily. And so I don't know, recognizing that they're important, recognizing we don't know, a lot of us have not been educated in how to do relationships healthily, effectively, successfully,
especially when there's differences or
we
when
learn
there's
geometry.
Challenges.
We learn geometry, but like not relationships. Why? When relationships are so much more important, so much more impactful, and there's like they're everywhere. Whether they're romantic or with your coworkers or with your friends or with your parents, your kids, those are all relationships, and they all matter.
Well, I think like just to add to that briefly is the recognition, as Cal named, like we haven't learned this and we need to.
Yes.
Right. We all need to. I don't know that Cal and I could have had the transformation we'd gone through if I hadn't been studying relationships for over a decade and getting a PhD and learning how to help other people with their relationships, right? Like all that, like relationships are a subject you can learn about and practice and master. We have this assumption that we're just supposed to know how to do it, that if you find the right person, it's going to be easy. that if you find the right person, it's just going to be good and you're not going to have problems and you're not going to fight and all of that.
Or that because you're struggling, it's the wrong person.
Right. And like all of that is wrong and creates a lot of pain and breakups that might not necessarily happen. Like, yes, you need the right person, someone who's willing to go on this journey with you. And like that, just because you're in relationship doesn't mean that you're going to be able to know how to create a bulletproof, extraordinary, fulfilling, energizing, co-creative, safe, like always growing and expanding and getting better kind of relationship that is the dream I think that we all have. And that can be such an engine for so much energy and potential fulfillment
creation
in other areas of your life. So know that like essential to this process is the recognition that there's stuff that we need to learn and get better at, and you don't just get better at it by being in relationship. You get better at it right by doing the work, investing the time and energy in your learning and healing and growth process, and doing that with mentorship and support is the accelerated path, right? It's going to set you up for success, because often we don't see the parts that we're missing. We don't see the programming or the automatic responses that are getting in our way, how we're like participating in what's not working, nor what we can do to make things better, because we've never seen it. And when you've never seen it or had it explained before, then how are you supposed to do it?
Right. And we didn't get to this part, but the learning, mentorship, and integration, as part of our program, we have a curriculum. So like we've created the education, like distilling from what she learned in her PhD, and then like what I've learned and what we've learned together in relationship with each other, distilled it down into like the core pieces that people just really need to know or that you need to know, right? To be successful in your relationships. And so that on top of our mentorship as coaches and like helping you to take what you're learning to like become what you're being, what you're embodying, and the integration steps that go along with that to really like learn that with your Sherpa, but also like customizing it to yourself and your own experiences and then applying it along the way, like that changes the game.
Yeah,
and
that's the power formula to like get like actual transformation.
Yeah.
So you're not just
bumping along in the night,
right? Like or learning about it or talking about it, and you don't know why you're changing.
Yeah.
Or you're
there's no
getting
mystery.
support, but you're not actually applying it and integrating it. Like the transformation comes when you know that you've got to do the work, you do the learning that comes with it, you get the support to apply the learning, and then you practice it and integrate it into your own unique life and relationship.
Tell me more about the programs in the back. Did you one-on-one? Did you group? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So most of the time we work with couples one-on-one, or rather two-on-two, right? So we work with couples as a couple, which we find is a really lovely way of creating like balance and additional support. So, depending on the level of support a couple needs, though, we also have a group coaching program, which is what folks can enroll in also if they are, if their partner isn't on board and doesn't want to do the work with them.
Yeah.
So, and I'll say about the group coaching container, like it's also a really powerful container because there's so much learning and healing that happens when you are doing this work in a community with other couples who get it, who share your experience, who like
you see yourself and other people pretty easily.
It's a really beautiful process and container. So what we recommend to achieve the lasting transformation that most couples want, that you stay in our Next Level Love program, the container, for at least a year and include at least one Next Level Love couples retreat. So that's our like best support container, is a year-long program and doing a retreat as part of that. However, we do have options both like for one-on-one work and group for 3 and 6 month programs that help you target specific areas of growth or challenges that you're stuck on, so that you can kind of accelerate through those and expand your relationships potential and joy.
Yeah, they're definitely more intensive. We even do like weekend intensives and kind of cram 3 months into a weekend, and that can be really transformational. And so we do intensive work, we do longer term, less intensive but like more complete comprehensive work. It has a lot of different flavors. We've tried.
I love it. I really love it. In this podcast, I am in the mindset of nothing changes until you move. So
yes,
I will be somehow convincing Dr. Jeni and Calvin to give a link to at least book a consult, like a place to have a conversation and kind of see if one of the containers they have is a fit. You can take all the time you want, read all the books you want, know it all, and still not be it. And so I like that they are looking at it from learning, getting mentored, and actually being the thing, actually embodying the thing. And when we started, I said it's crazy that we spend more time getting a PhD and learning about science and geography than we spend learning relationships and love and parenting, which is crazy because I believe that everything rotates around love and relationship.
Yes.
It's crazy that we spend time learning about all these things. We spend so much money and so much time trying to become better business owners, but we never spend the time to understand love, which if the love is broken, everything crumbles. Like, it's crazy that we don't give love the time and attention and investment it requires. Yet for me, I think it's the engine that fuels everything.
It really 100%. Can be.
Yep.
It's really crazy. So if you are watching this and you're in a place where you don't like what you have, my call to you is one: move, book a call.
Yes.
Sit with these amazing human beings and get in the room. A lot of things happen when you just get in the room. This knowing, I am just past knowing, and I want people to move and be these things. Like, I am at a level where if I hear another podcast saying we've told people, I would just cry. People can know it and not be it. So please move. Like, please move. Grab the call. Don't say you know unless you're living at 100% or 1,000% in your relationship. Don't say no. Move. Like, get into these containers where people are literally saying, let's move these things. Let's, But I think for me personally, from my personal experience, is none of this matters if you're with the wrong person. So unfortunately, some of this work is deciding if you're in the right place. That's sad news. But if you haven't made the decision, I feel like even the more you should start learning these things. I bought more books before I was married than any of my married friends. And they said, "Why do you read so much?" I said, "My friend, I don't want to be entangled with the wrong person forever." Like, I was so afraid of picking the wrong person that I spent so much time learning about marriages, relationships. I was like, what happens when I get married? And for me, I'm a Christian, in church, and I believe in I do forever. And my mindset is more like I'm in it for good. And for me, I didn't want to say I do to a guy that wasn't it. So I think that most of this is going to be easier for you if you did that part, or somehow God helped you and you're with someone, I think, who is just open to growth, open to look better, open to growing capacity. I don't think they necessarily have to be the right, but I think they have to be open to being better and to understanding what you need and to giving you what you need without, I don't know. I think the worst part can be when you're in it alone and your partner is not interested. I think that can be really bad. really
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
But again, I believe that there's no door. You're free to make the choices. And if someone is not willing to step up and grow, I mean, you can do what you can do, but in the end, you know, it's your life. And so
Exactly.
I can talk to the cows come back home. I will definitely be bringing Dr. Jeni and Calvin back because I love their philosophy. I love what they do. I love how they do it. But for now, I want to kind of jump into, I'm getting to the end, but can you kind of just give us a recap of course, we've heard about your life. Can you give us like a recap of like the few people that come to mind when it comes to the transformation this work brings to people? Kind of pick a few, maybe one or two, kind of tell us what is possible when you dive in and do this work based on experiences with people.
Yes. Yeah. So what is possible is so good. You don't do this work, first of all, without moving through a transformational process within yourself.
Yes.
It's, you know, like sometimes that involves some really beautiful deep healing work. Sometimes it's just like growth and expansion and taking yourself to the next level. But and this is a journey that, you know, your relationship is this journey that's inviting you into your highest potential. And so when you decide and move and go on this journey, you are going to experience such beautiful growth and transformation within yourself, and that ripples to like so many other places of your life.
Yeah, butterfly effect.
Yeah,
for sure. But it also gives you more clarity and confidence as an individual, as a couple, to navigate any problem that comes your way, because life is gonna life. You might be in a really great spot where like nothing hard or, you know, challenging is come at you, but
eventually
it's
life is going to throw
this
you
is
a
a
curveball.
trauma-based learning environment. Like curveballs are coming, and so it's like being able to have that confidence, that just solid foundation to know that no matter what, like we got this, it's us against the problem. That's huge.
And to know how, right? To have like a clear process, clear steps. Like I know exactly what to do if we're challenged or if something comes up between us. That like it creates such safety. That's where the bulletproofness comes from in your relationship. Because it's like, not only do I believe we can, but we both know how. I'll say one other really beautiful thing that folks get in their work with us, and perhaps one of Cal's favorite is that communicating with one another, which tends to be one of the like
hard conversation, you know,
right? Like communication tends to be one of the things couples struggle with the most.
Yes, we hear that.
But when you do this work, communicating not only becomes easier, it also becomes less necessary. Right? So like there are fewer processing or healing conversations that you need to have, less feedback that you need to give about what's not working, less like resentment or injuries from the past that you need to talk about. There's so much that gets just kind of
freed up.
Yeah, released and then as you move forward, there's so much what would have been problems before kind of fizzle out because you've got this new way of approaching them, and then now they're not really problems, and so you just spend so much more time in happiness and enjoyment and fun and connection and intimacy, and all those like yummy things that we can have from our relationship. And so
on top of this reclaimed energy, so instead of the conflicts draining you and making you feel defeated or not enough, like now all of a sudden you have this relationship that feels easy, energizing, you know, it doesn't require a lot of maintenance or whatever. And you can take that freed up energy and reinvest it in your relationship or put it towards co-creating new stuff.
Like a family or like your business or like you know, your dream career or dream house.
Or
like all those things. Now you've got the
dream
energy for your dreams because you're not spending your energy just trying to make what you have be what you want, like as good as you want it to be. And the more you invest in it, the more energy your relationship is going to give, which is why we love working with couples also who, you know, want to keep leveling up and making it better.
Yeah. I just had an aha moment, and I think I understand exactly who you're for. Your work is not for all couples. Your work is for people who have the right relationship. You know, there is something here, and you both are very clear that you want to preserve it, grow it, nourish it. I don't know what the other option is, but I know what I have, and it's that. Like, I know I have something that I am willing to do my best to water and nourish, and my husband feels the same. And so I feel like that's who you want, like people who have something that they are sure that it's worth it, it's worth the price. They both want it. I think if you don't have that, then there's a different process for you. There's a different process that needs to happen. Otherwise, all this work gets too hard for nothing, you know?
Totally.
But the realization I have got is that when you're in that relationship, really the problem is not that the person loves you less. It's not like they're stubborn. It's not that they want to help you. They are willing to do things for you. They will die on the cross if they have. They will take a bullet for you. But the problem is they don't have the capacity to give you the bread. The breadcrumbs is all they have. And so their process really helps you get what Carl got, which is get his breadcrumb and turn it into bread. Because that's exactly what happens in a natural, neutral, loving, caring relationship. You want to grow, you want to get better, but you don't know how. Someone is killing themselves to give you but you just feel like it's not enough. But you don't know how to say that without literally shooting them in the face or just killing them flat off. And so I love this place where I am, because I really see the payoff. Is you get the partner with the breadcrumbs and you help them to build capacity until they can give you the full plate. Yes, I feel like we've fulfilled the goal of this episode. We're winding up, and I would love for you to give your final remarks to someone on the other side saying that's us. We've struggled so much. We don't know how to fix it. But we know we have something that you don't want to let go. We know we have something here, but we just are not quite sure. I want you to give them like words of encouragement, because I want them to cross over into the world of things get to be easy. Communication gets to be fun. The breadcrumbs gets to get more, and we get the bread, you know? Give me those last words, because I would love them to have no reason why they cannot jump today.
So I want you to know that whatever you are wanting, longing for, wishing for, dreaming of in your relationship is 100% possible. The fact that you know that you are with the right person and that you have this desire for something more is evidence that you're being called to it. And truthfully, the path of taking a relationship from where you are to where you want to go can be so much quicker and easier than you might think. When you know the way, when you know, as Prima was saying, the how to get there. And more importantly, we want you to know that whatever is going on in your relationship, and wherever that gap is between where you are and how you really want it to be, you're there for your highest good. This is an invitation. This is a catalyst for your growth and healing and expansioning and leveling up. That gap is here for you to fill your highest potential in this life, both individually and as a couple, because your coming together in this relationship is powerful and is special and like has this energy that can really create so much change in the world, can create so many beautiful and wonderful things. So if you can like lean into what's not working or what's not feeling quite where you want it to be, and make that powerful choice to let that bit of dissatisfaction, that bit of like of desire move you into that journey of growth and expansion, and keep taking the next steps that you can take for your relationship to get to that next level. We promise you will end up somewhere even better than you can even imagine right now. And it is so, so worth it.
Yeah. And it's worth it because joy, ease, safety, inspiration, co-creation, like all this is possible. And your relationship becomes a source really then of energy and support and connection. Your relationship, when it's working, affects everything positively, but when it's not working, also affects everything, right? So your kids, your health, your business, your career, your abundance, like all this is tied to it and possible and can be realized in your purpose and potential.
And one last reminder, right? Like, don't go it alone. You don't have to, and I don't recommend it. It's a lot more challenging.
It's bumpy.
This, relationship work, my friend, is soul work and heart work.
Courage.
It's courage work. Yep. It's shadow work and light work. In your relationship journey, you're playing with the most powerful force in the world, love. And with love, always there will be fear, there will be risk. And it's that fear that's going to keep you in resistance to moving, to
not knowing,
the what ifs, right? Like all of that is going to keep you stuck and struggling, or in the
acceptance of mediocrity,
right? That isn't what you really want and what's really possible. But when you have support and mentorship, that fear is much less powerful. And that love, that is the thing that's calling you forward in this journey, it's going to move to the front and center, right? Like that's what we are here for. This is our purpose and our passion, to help you transform your trials into triumph, your pain into purpose, your problems and desires into infinite possibilities for a life and a love that is
next level.
Seriously next level.
I have nothing more to add to this. Amazing people. But you who is watching, there is a premise to this podcast, and that is to bring life-changing work in front of people whose life depends on it. My heart belongs for families. My heart belongs for relationships, marriages, love. I believe love is the single most thing that drives the entire human being. And when the love is going right, people soar. When love is going south, people struggle. And it's my deepest desire that everyone gets to figure out this love thing. Because if we do, the world is much a better place to be. There's one thing you can massively do to spread this message, and that is place the share button. And don't share it on your social media. Don't share it on your stories. Don't share it publicly. Press the share button and take this episode and give it to the one person that could use some peace in their love. Take this and give it to someone whose love you want to see stay forever. Take this and give it to a newly married couple who are head over heels for each other, and you want to keep that for life. Take this and give it to someone that you know is always looking for answers, reading books, going to seminars, and they are growing gray hair from that. Take this to one person that you know has a beautiful marriage and you never want to see that fall apart. Just share it with one person and give them a chance to be in the presence of these two human beings. That's one thing you can do. The second thing you can do, if you know this message was for you, if you are like, yes, I do not know how, but I feel like this is my message, book a call. Don't go following on social media. Don't go getting another freebie from these human beings. Book a call. Honestly, book a call. Get in the room. And if they decide their free training about XYZ is the next thing for you, you can go back and watch it. But book a call, get in the room. But I understand that not everyone has the same process. So if you're the kind of person who's going to first be an FBI before you get to the call, no problem. Do that. But don't get stuck in the FBI and investigating and, looking for everything about them before you book the call. And so I am here just letting you know that I want you to walk into the door of getting a better marriage, a better relationship, a better whatever the thing you want. But nothing happens if you keep soaking in information. You're not a sponge, my friend. Move the call. And if these are not your experts, I hope we've instilled enough fire in you to go find someone that is, because there's answers and experts for everyone. Or keep coming to the show, because I bring anyone I can get on whose work changes life. That's the biggest you can do, is share the episode. Because the more people I have in the community, the bigger the hand you give me. If I go and ask Oprah to come on this show, she's going to ask me, how big is your community? I don't know what to say to them. So when you subscribe, when you become a member, the community grows. So when I go and bring the expert of your dreams, whichever expert you want on, I need to be able to say we have a couple of millions in the community, and they will come. So when you subscribe, when you share, when the person subscribes, you're giving me like a longer hand in like who I can reach and who I can bring and how much impact we can bring to this world. I believe there is a gap between knowing and being. I believe everyone really knows what to do sometimes, but there is that thing which is called being the thing. And unfortunately, it does not belong to our willpower. We as human beings have a way of getting in the middle of the being. And the best thing you can do for yourself is get out of your own way, which is why I built this podcast and why I will keep saying to you, get out of your own way, get in the room until you get tired of hearing me and you do it. I'm saying this with all of love, all of my compassion, because I love and care about you, and I want you to be better in your love life, because love can be the engine of everything that you've ever wanted and dreamt about. Thank you for listening today. I will talk to you very soon. Thank you, Dr. Jeni and Calvin, for being such amazing guests today. We appreciate your input.
Thank you for having us.
For having us, yeah.
That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.